Sackboy Big Adventure is officially a launch title for the PlayStation 5, and that means it's coming out November 12th. I've made many a video discussing my thoughts, opinions, and overall analysis for the spin-off title, but this will be my final video going into the game's launch. Now, since it's really only a couple of months away from its launch, I'd say it's safe to assume some aspects of the game. First of all, no create tool. Even though I made an entire video discussing how Sackboy Big Adventure needs level creator, given its release date and the lack of new information, it makes sense. Level creation is such an integral part of Sackboy's identity that if the game were to have one would assume that it would have been shown front and center. Since that's obviously not the case, and that the naming convention would suggest that Suma Digital is trying their hardest to distance itself from Little Big Planet, it won't have a creation tool. At least, that's what I think. Yet this leads me to something that reflects the existence of Sackboy Big Adventure as a whole. Is this game meant to test the waters for potential Little Big Planet 4? Think about it. The first two Little Big Planet games sold very well, so in the third, and in my opinion the weakest in the series, only sold close to 3 million units. After 6 years, it made Sony question the validity of the franchise. Now, after over half a decade, are they looking to relight the dying flame that is Little Big Planet? I say yes. With Sackboy Big Adventure, they're looking to test 3D platforming in the Sackboy universe with brand new graphics as well. Maybe if it sells well or if people really enjoy it, we'll get a Little Big Planet 3D. It could be wishful thinking, but then again, given how long it's been, and the fact that the PlayStation 5 is appealing to an entirely new audience of gamers, I think it's got a real shot of happening. Another slight tidbit of excitement towards this idea is the fact that Sony shut down the fan-made Little Big Planet restitched game in early 2020, just months before Sony announced a big adventure. Could this be because they were working on their own Little Big Planet game? Well, while most of the time this stuff means nothing, like trademarks, it can sometimes lead to insider information into the next entry in a series. Like for example in 2016 when Nintendo shut down a fan-made Metroid 2 remake before announcing their own remake of the game in E3. Even without create mode though, the game was still confirmed to retail for $60 on both the PS4 and PS5. This makes sense to me. It's clearly not pushing the boundaries of the PS5 to its limits, so it makes sense to me that it would be on the PS4 as well. That price point though, on the other hand, is a little steep to me. Little Big Planet 3, despite all of its flaws, offered a wealth of content for the same price. Just look at the costumes it offered, including an expanded create mode to top it all off. I think a much more appropriate price would be $40 or $50, but hey, if it really is that good or that big of a game, then yeah, I think it makes sense. Overall, it's a bit odd, yet it's still nothing to detract from the game at hand, obviously. Now, since all of this information has come out about the game, I'm going to make a relatively safe prediction and say that we're going to get an extended look fairly soon. It only makes sense that before its launch, we'll see more than a minute of gameplay. There's still so much for them to touch up on, like the story, frame rate, enemies, costumes, controls, bosses, characters, and of course, just basic game mechanics. It's still more than a little baffling that it wasn't in the PlayStation 5 game showcase the other day, since that would have added a new spotlight on the title. But hey, if they're just planning to drop a trailer on YouTube when it's ready or something, I'm totally cool with that. Lastly, I'd like to touch up on two very specific aspects of Sackboy Big Adventure: art direction and minigames. Art direction is an important topic for any game, especially one that prioritizes art style over raw graphics like this one. In my first video about the game, Sackboy Big Adventure Could Ruin Everything, I made the mistake of comparing the game to other PS5 games solely in terms of pure graphics. It was a dumb mistake, since while the game obviously isn't the gold standard of visual fidelity on next-gen hardware, it does what it's supposed to do perfectly. I've even been going back and rewatching the trailer, and I've been noticing subtle design choices and use of graphics that really made me stop and think. It has this whole Yoshi Woolly World-esque style to it, more so than any game in the series, and it looks fantastic. This is a clear case of art style winning out over pure graphical power. Now next, I'd like to mention minigames, and how they might tie into the replayability factor of the game. Since it obviously has a major focus on multiplayer, I'd say it'd be more than fitting for Sackboy Big Adventure to have high score based minigames for you to play with yourself or compete with friends exactly like the ones in Little Big Planet 1. This would not only add some extra hectic fun to the package, but a reason to return to the game. And so far, that's my biggest issue with the game. In virtually every Sackboy-focused game, there's been some underlying reason to return. With this, though, I feel like all I'm going to do is play the game, beat it, maybe check it out with friends, and then never touch it again. This isn't a problem, obviously, for almost every game out there, but this is a Sackboy game we're talking about here. Sackboy games have always had replayability at the forefront of the experience, and it's one of the reasons why so many people hold the series close to their heart, including myself. Only time will tell if Sackboy Big Adventure lives up to the expectations it has set for itself, but I will be rooting for it along the way. And here's hoping we get a Little Big Planet 4 sooner rather than later.